We're live.
Okay, it's the Senate Education Committee on the afternoon of April 10th. We actually have some guests with us today. Where are you all from? Oh, you're all from Colchester High. Okay. You're in what grades?
10.
10th, you're all 10th graders. Okay. First, how many of you first time in the State House? Okay.
Everyone.
Yeah.
All of you. Okay. Well, welcome. Sure you got some history.
A little bit, yeah. They're
Yeah.
there to kind of just observe
Yeah.
the process. They've been
Yeah.
looking at tracking different issues this session, and so kind of watching how it all happens and sort of behind the scenes.
So what are some of the issues you've been tracking?
Me, Brock, and Corey, we did housing.
Okay.
The last couple months.
Me and Emily looked into healthcare.
Healthcare?
Yeah.
Okay. You've actually picked.
The most important cost drivers in
You're
the
on-
state.
Yeah, they're not surprisingly. Yeah.
Did you come up with answers? Well, we tried. I mean, it's
At
hard.
least you tried.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And part of it, I think, is having people in the education community be part of going to meetings where they're talking about building new housing
Yeah.
or bringing down the cost of healthcare because it has such an impact on our education system.
That we've made, as you know, on healthcare, as you know, we've made some progress over the last
Yeah.
couple of years, not earth shattering, but
Yeah.
actually well, it almost is, because we've actually brought down the rate of increase by quite a bit.
Mhm.
And taken some money out of the system that's
Yeah.
gonna help a little bit.
And we don't want to shatter either system.
No.
So, okay, so committee, we have, as you know, we lost our lead council to House of Ropes, in order for them to get the bill out, so we asked them, they asked because it seemed important for them to be able to do that. So we have the spreadsheet that we were working on, JFO added on the right-hand side in blue, some information about as passed by the House and in the governor's recommend, so that might help us. I also took the memo that I had passed out before the plan for us, and I used Senator Weeks' high, medium, low for us to go through, and people can mark them up as we go. So we have so you have a new spreadsheet with JFO in the show side. That new spreadsheet. So the new memo, I was trying to fill in as much as I could, and I also added the committee priority level underneath that. So in the Natural Resources Committee this morning, we started with the bills that came out of our committee. So, probably pretty high profile coming out, but so the first thing on page 1 is education reform transition, and in the bill that we're working on, whether these numbers will end up being exactly as they are, I'm not sure, but maybe close. We have some money set aside for the SUs to form. I think modest amounts, but enough that got some testimony was enough for them to be able to reconfigure the boundaries. And then grants that help districts that are looking to merge on page 3. First, the part that happens before they go to a vote to merge, and then the part afterwards, which is higher, for them to actually reward the merger. So,
And did we use those numbers drawn from former mergers? What's it called?
they're based partially and updated and moved up from, yeah. So I think they're conservative if anything, but I want them we've got enough, and I think they'll be okay. We're taking a little bit more testimony on before and after district mergers on Tuesday, so we could possibly block them. If it gets changed, it's not going to be by law.
Are you referring to the 5 new positions or? Yeah,
No, this is not related to this. Well, this money will go directly to the SUs.
The
Good.
2.5.
Money that goes to the season.
Directly to the, all of it actually goes to the SUs because it's, and well, actually, because the SUs actually work with the district workers as well. So even the next part is Florida
Yeah.
is really,
Well,
they get services from the SU.
the 2,700,000. What is that on?
The 2,750,000, that's for the SUs consolidate. So as we move from, we're on into that, as we move from the 32 SUs in that area down to 12, this is the money that will allow them. And it's 250 for each.
Yes.
If anything is conservative, but
Yeah, any money going to the
Okay.
districts for consolidation support or service sharing or whatever it is.
so I think if we're gonna do our bill, we just have to have this money. And then
For the districts that they supervise.
especially the SUs, yeah.
I think it's,
We can
I
look at-
don't think the House funded the additional requests of AOE.
Yeah, this is for our, so that's a different issue.
Yeah,
Okay, so people,
I'm with you there.
And yeah, I think that should be on.
Right.
Clarification, hypothetically, let's say Act 73 doesn't, Sammy's money isn't used. Then it gets categorized as carryover.
Yeah.
That,
the policy is there. Quick interruption, Tess, you guys get like that.
Is this about a carpooling situation while we're fine?
Right, yeah, it's good.
Just your question about priority, why not?
No, this is for our bill, this is the one in our bill.
Okay, so you're not looking at the matrix, looking for highway network.
Yeah, we are.
We want,
But I also, this isn't in the matrix, this is our, first bit of this, but it didn't appear in the matrix. Because it wasn't testimony. But then we go to this. So Agency of Education. And the 2.7 million across all, and by the way, so as well. 5 new positions. So you see what I did here? We have A, B, C, and D, and I put to break it down, however we want to do this.
I'm looking over your shoulders.
Got one.
I know.
Okay.
So that, some of those are included, right? In the 2.73. I don't think the Read Vermont positions or the 5 transformation positions are in the 2.73.
No, I didn't pick that up in here, actually, did I? Vermont.
Yeah, like if the 10 million is part of the 2.73 billion,
There should, yeah, so there should be,
fine.
I should actually have an E in this, I think, for the Beat Vermont, right? That's a new request.
Well, I'm struggling with like, is the 10 million the transfer from outside of the education fund?
I'm not sure.
No, this one. Oh, here, I have a copy. At least the House Education knows what they have, so maybe this will help to have the vice chair of House Education.
So, so what?
Oh, sorry, the last page is like this mashup of
Chart.
AOE.
the
Education.
matrix.
Yep.
The 113 appears to have been what was in the governor's recommend and the House budget. Is that?
No, the House, the 113 is for the buy down, right? So the 113 is for the buy down, the House didn't have it. So that's a question in front of us. I suppose it's really, we could argue it's a finance.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead back to like what I think is happening and maybe the house can weigh in, but there are certain costs that we are accepting in the education fund or we're buying down with other revenue sources. The house has one way that they've done that with the buy down over 2 years, but this represents the 4% increase. I don't know if that's with the full buy down or not.
That's what it is.
Okay.
113 is the full benefit.
So I don't think it is usually then between finance and appropriations, what funds
Yep.
come and go from where. Although it helps us to know. Any new positions for AOE, I do not.
Okay, well, let's do it one at a time. So if we're
In
talking
case anybody was wondering.
if we're talking about, maybe we should not get into the 113 because that's really a finance issue, or do we want to, I mean, I'm in favor of the full 113.
I'm in favor of at least providing a signal to them on how we think, whether it's, you know, a mixed bag, you know, whether you
Mhm.
support or don't support, but at least we ought to tell them.
Right. So we're not
Well,
shorting the ed fund, which is
No.
approving of the money that has been voted on by all of our communities
No, we're not.
and buying it down in other ways, but if we approve those larger amounts, those are our education costs.
No, well, let's just do one at a time. No, let's do C. Let's just jump down to C.
Mm-hmm.
C means that we're using all the money we have available to buy down the rate from the house bought it down to 7%. This would buy it down to 4%.
So,
The house used half the money.
okay, it's worded weird.
Yeah, it is, but that's what's going on.
It's the transfer from the one-time funds, which I think are a general fund, to
Right.
the education
Yeah.
fund.
I think keeping it at half is wiser because the more we buy it down now, the worse it's going to be next year. And so I don't know that. I mean, buying down the rate is often kicking the can down the road, but you know, there has to be some. Maybe instead of kicking the can, just kind of give it a touch. So keeping it at half of the 113 is what I would.
I'm in for the full amount, and the reason is that, if we don't, affect property tax increases in this particular calendar year, I think that there's gonna be some public backlash. So the more we can affect the growth of property taxes now, the better, and we'll figure out next year how to affect the budget. That's just my,
And I would add on to that, theoretically, the 220 came out of the finance committee that pushes down the excess spending threshold to help next year. The other thing is 7% is overall, which means some districts are going to get more.
I think
More than that.
political landscape. Not necessarily playing there, just saying that we need to recognize that, we were pre-warned 2 years ago. How this would go. That's just my gut feeling. May go well for some, may not go well for others.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I just know it makes the problem multiply the next year. So again, it's gonna be an even bigger challenge to address property taxes next year, but
Although theoretically, the construct was supposed to be the 220 push it down in the next years. Didn't go far enough in my view, but
We're pulling several levers simultaneously to get the desired result. Desired result is to property tax. So that's why I support the full.
Okay.
Basically.
oh no. Good shot.
Good question. I'm trying to remember, this is Eclipse one-time fund?
This is one-time funds, and then they're there's no real indication we'll have more next.
Right, no, like if we're not gonna get pennies from heaven from the federal government or an eclipse, basically.
Yeah.
Then we'd be looking for some kind of deus ex machina to find a lot of money, like $50 million plus to put towards the property tax rate
I mean, for next year.
for next year.
Yeah, or more, we're putting 113 in this year,
Mhm.
if we do this.
So I have a different perspective on what I think will help us with next year's rate, which is building more housing. And I think that's happening. We're seeing the permit spikes. And I always tell people what will actually make your property tax bill go down is that we have grown the grant list. So I'm okay using the full buy down this year because I think we are attacking all of the other things like healthcare and housing. And other things that have been accelerating the growth of people's individual property tax bill. I think we are working on those.
And making a note that 4 on the high, but 1 for 1/2 for this year.
I guess a formatted question. Are we making, how are we going to be ranking this? I mean, do you want us voting on high, medium, low, or are we making
You could,
edits?
you could either, we can make edits to extend on it's something set up right or answered correctly, but we could also just all mark our own. Mark our own, the end of the me at the end.
The conversation's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do like to see where people
Okay.
are.
Mhm.
so,
So that's helpful.
do we, so the A is, I forgot to be moving on this stuff, get through this, but, A is the 7.3 billion across all the appropriations, and that goes to your question, Senator Robbins Hill, because that's all the, money for us, the people voted, that's funding our schools,
Mhm.
and
It's things that no one really has control over that have.
in large
lower
measure,
cost.
although the AOE itself is in there.
Oh.
Partly,
Okay.
we know that most of it is going to,
It's a pretty round number. I don't know where it comes from exactly. But there was if AOE got like their COLA kind of increase, fine. But I'm aware of 2 requests that equal like 1.5 million or so for more positions. And until they give us a better accounting of how they're using existing funds, especially for out-of-state consultants, resources, I don't support giving
that
them
would be B.
additional.
Are we, what's the sense on A?
Yeah.
That's a high priority.
Right, okay,
Must do.
okay. B is the 5 new positions for educational transformation.
I think you should take all that money and give it to the districts.
Effectively.
Yes. And advance Vermont.
So that's different, but, high, medium, or low for B.
I put it right in there with the whole transformation and the overall AOE budget. I think it's,
Have they told you how they spend that money?
well, I can conceive of how they spend. It's a big transition going from where we are to where we want to be. There's a lot of moving parts that need to be affected. That's people making decisions, socializing with districts, socializing with schools.
They haven't socialized with districts about their plans to date.
That's why we need some people to facilitate it.
so I think that we give a lot of flack to AOE saying that they're not doing what we want them to do, or they're failing in, some area. But, how do we expect them to improve if they're not getting the position that they're asking for? So, I mean, I think that's one thought that I have, but also this for the education transformation. And if that is to progress, that's not something that we want to have falling apart. There's also another part of me that thinks that perhaps maybe I'm pessimistic, but I don't think the education transformation is going to exactly pan out as they're hoping it does. So I don't know if 5 new positions is necessary right now, or if we should consider 2 new positions rather than 5. Are they having difficulties filling the current positions that they have vacant in other areas? I don't know, but I guess that's not a question.
We did a couple times, and Bruce would be interested in. We're not fully sure whether this is or isn't, needs to be a little more work with patients.
do it just to do whatever it is, 3-3 vote. We just,
We
just
just,
indicate, listen, I don't want to get all bogged down. on,
well, we
you know,
said to wait
five
for
people.
discussion.
Yeah, seriously.
But I mean, when it's obvious that, you know, if we're like, if we're
Right.
particular issue, if we're kind of divided, let's just accept that we're divided. record
Well,
it.
because we're the policy committee jurisdiction, I do just want to say, I could be wrong, but I heard from reputable sources yesterday that the House did not fund any additional positions for them because they failed to appear before House appropriations.
Hey, look,
I'm like, that's.
I don't put a lot of,
actually-
I don't put a lot of credence in that. All I do is pick up the phone and I can talk to these guys.
I actually requested a lot of information about Ava's budget and not received it.
You have a low.
I have a very low on this one.
Say low.
By,
For the positions?
Yeah.
Medium. Cause I'm looking at their budget, they get 41 million
I'll go with,
for 75%.
yeah, I'm kind of in the middle. So let's just. I'll note, we've got three mediums, one low.
Two lows.
Oh, two low. You're right,
yeah,
yes.
And
Oh,
again,
you're right,
they're
you're right.
high.
Okay, so, okay,
How did you?
Um,
No,
just joking.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
No, you were right. I didn't get that right.
Compared to that.
So the 10 million for other ed fund increases, I just assume makes sense.
The what?
The $10 million,
D.
D.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Wasn't yesterday, wasn't that 15 million for a stadium?
That's a different,
Vice Chair Brady doesn't understand that, but if it says transportation special ed, those are usually the overrun costs that we don't, that are kind of like a block grant.
Yeah.
so maybe they just put them in when they were talking to us. We don't have to, maybe we just take that out. Just leave it.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Yeah, this sounds like it's trying to say,
Or you put it in as low, because if we take it out.
Well, no, I mean,
Because we don't have
it's okay. Yeah, well, I think it's probably not even supposed to be here.
Yeah.
honestly.
mhm, yeah,
Okay,
right.
but 716 for the permanent positions to support. Well, that's the education, that's,
They
Okay,
have
also-
two position requests.
yeah, okay,
We're
well,
trying to follow, are we following your paper or are we following this?
well,
I think they
I
pulled
added
back
it-
their
I
referral
added the-
request, basically.
you think they pulled it back?
I'm
Well-
not gonna speak for AOE, but that was a BAA request they did not receive, and then they did not receive it as a house addition either. So if you, like, we haven't talked about Read Vermont, and I've asked them multiple times to get me more
So
information.
just,
Never
okay,
heard.
let's just not even put it on here then, right?
Nope.
Okay, let's take it out.
What are we calling
The Vermont, however, we have to get. Okay, let's move on. State colleges.
That is the total what was in the houses?
Well, over here on the right. So it passed on how to change the governor to recommend base appropriation, 3% increase. That is the, I think it's 54 million.
Yeah.
And so we didn't do the 1.5 for the micro credentialing. And I, that was sort of dropped off the paper.
The state colleges?
Yeah. So. I think this the broad strokes are we in state colleges budget. I mean,
That's where I am.
I would say
I would like,
talking about not getting answers?
You give. Shooting a flare.
I mean, what I will underscore from what Senator Weeks has raised is we've because there's been so much turnover there, we've given them a lot of one-time funds. And frankly, haven't heard back after that, how that went. So if we're giving them $1.5 million from micro credentialing, I struggle with, are we funding something that they're already doing that they need to do a better job of, or are we gonna hear back how that went?
Did we write that on the?
Does the 59 include what, this 1.5?
Yeah, it does.
Well, the number below, I think, I'm still struggling, but I think the total is the two numbers added together.
Yeah, the total actually is the 59 that I'm showing here.
And that has.
With the Allied Health.
Yeah.
I don't even have 59 on the spreadsheet. Oh, I'm looking at this.
Well, you want both together.
Well.
This,
Mhm.
so it does include the one time,
Mhm.
like the house didn't do.
Okay.
The house didn't do their.
The house didn't do that.
I would
On a person.
advise the medium.
I'm gonna do medium low.
Well, we can also, is the reason you're switching to high low, because I don't think we want to, I'm the same. I don't think we want to send a signal that we're not listening to the colleges. So I think what it is take out, you're saying take out the micro.
I think
Oh, that's what I mean.
distinguishing
Oh, yeah,
between
yeah.
the entire 59 million.
So should we just minus out the micro and then change the number?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
high?
And I'm assuming that the Allied Health money went through health and welfare.
Yes.
That's what I'm assuming.
So micro, that would reduce the number of the 59 line that we're gonna have. Right? So 2 highs, 1 medium, 2 mediums. For the entire thing, colleges. Right?
We're doing this entire psychologist?
Yeah, so effectively.
This is the first one, then we're gonna do the 1.9.
Okay, so
Oh,
for the entire college system, I would say high for the 1.5.
Okay,
down with Noddard,
so high and then,
medium low.
okay.
Bye. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Millions of dollars get moved this way.
Oh, that's right, sure. It's 2 o'clock, yeah, okay. Okay, we'll have to come back to this, so, we're going to pick up with like features in a minute. But we have Senator Campion joining us.
Hey.
This is our bit of.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, come on, you
Yeah.
have to make the screen
Yes.
bigger. You have to pin him
No,
so we
this,
both
Make it
sides.
smaller, actually, though.
We're glad you got dressed up for us. It's really nice.
of course, of course, of course. Yeah. Great seeing all of you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for taking the time to come.
And I hear it's been a very quiet session, which is great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The whole Miami's been pretty quiet.
Great.
No one's invoked your name in vain.
Oh, I'm sure. I think the only person I don't know in the room is the good senator from Addison County. So nice to meet you, Senator.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, hopefully we'll cross paths at some point. But I've heard good things, so I hope you're enjoying it.
They're all lies. Yeah.
So just to remind you where we are, Senator Campion chaired this committee for the 4 years previous to this biennium, and was a proponent of keeping the PCB language alive for the school testing. And because we've had this debate that's happened in other years, and there were members of the committee who were on committee while he was chair who said we should have him in. And so I gave him a call, and here we are. So as you know, we have a bill in front of us that would end the PCB testing program in schools. And I told you this on the phone, so I'm repeating what you already talked about.
Yeah.
But we had a couple of suggestions from the administration or from Matt Chapman
Right.
about ways to kind of keep it alive. But we wanted to get your sense about why you always took the position that you took those last 4 years and your feelings about them.
Great. Thanks for having me. For the record, Brian Campion. Yeah, so this all started, as I think all of you know, with Burlington High School. And Burlington High School, I don't know what prompted their testing, but the school was tested and they found elevated levels of PCBs. The school shut down. And since then, I don't know where things are at right now, but they have, gone through a process of rebuilding their high school. And the state invested $16 million in that project. So the state was very involved in that project in terms of the rebuilding. And so at that time, it was great because we had Senator Terenzini and Senator Lyons on the committee, both of whom were in health and welfare. And so they weighed in on sort of, they brought their knowledge and their expertise from their committee as well as witnesses in to talk to us about PCBs. And so when we talked to Dr. Mark Levine, who at that point was the health commissioner, very good health commissioner, and others, we decided to test all schools. And I realized that there are a lot of schools out there that were constructed before 1980 and had the likelihood of PCBs. But Dr. Levine really, and I would recommend reading that testimony. I can happily share it with people if Daphne can't put her hands on it. But even as we went through the process, and a couple years ago, there was also a proposal to stop this. We heard again from Dr. Levine and the NEA and many, many others, including Matt Chapman, that said, listen, this is serious business. This is, you're talking about the health of children. You're talking about teachers, some of whom might be pregnant, in the same classroom year after year. These are developmental years for young people, and we need to take this seriously. And so, listen, as everyone in that room takes science seriously. And when professionals like Dr. Levine came before us, and we did hear, I recall, from other medical professionals, said, keep testing, see what is out there. And so that has always, again, been what's propelled me is, let's see what is out there and let people know what's out there and then let decisions be made. And again, I realize that this has caused some frustration. And I know the House has struggled with this, but frankly, we struggled with the House Education Committee when we did the lead testing. We as a committee, it was before I was the chair, but it was my bill. We wanted to test all the waters in schools to make sure there was no lead in those waters. Again, this is serious business when you're talking about the health of young people, faculty, and staff. And we had a 3 parts per billion, and the House kept saying, no, it has to be more than that in order to, it was a little bit of more lead in the water will be okay. And they kept pushing to 5. And I believe Senator Baruth finally ended up having to negotiate 4. But so I realized that historically the House Education Committee, might struggle with some of these kinds of issues in a different way, but I still continue to believe and grateful we did the lead bill. The administration, that was a big priority of theirs as well. And I hope that you'll all consider keeping this alive as well in some capacity. And I know Matt Chapman has proposed different things. I trust Matt. And again, just hope you don't end what I think is a worthwhile program for the health and safety of people, but also how do you start a program and say, all right, we're not going to test the rest of you? That's just, not a fair thing to do. And again, I would go back to Burlington and I'd say, state, once it was found out that PCBs were, in the environment, we invested 16 million. And, what's the old saying? If it's good for Burlington, it's good for the rest of Vermont.
Thank you. Questions? Yes.
Sure. Yeah, Brian, nice to see you.
Good to see you.
You are missed. Wondering if, because you're aware of all these issues and you're aware of how they weave together. The continued PCB testing, potentially woven into the school construction initiative. Can you at least comment on, like, if you were still here or as a, and I don't want to put you on the spot with State Board of Education because I don't believe you're trying to represent the board today, but how would you weave that together with state school construction program, which is, it hasn't been reinitiated, but there certainly seems to be interest and momentum in that regard.
Yeah, thanks for the question. And I would say, Senator, before any school construction starts, PCB testing should happen. And I'm sure there's probably a list of other known chemicals out, that we would test for. And certainly PCB should be on that list. Certainly before, construction workers put a hammer into something and possibly expose themselves as well to harmful chemicals. And I would think that other things might rise to the top. I don't know where the federal government is on these things, but historically, I'll say, no matter the administration, the federal government isn't great on chemicals of high concern. And I experienced that when I was involved with the PFAS contamination here in Bennington. So certainly that seems like, before construction starts, I would say that, yeah, any, testing for PCBs beforehand would be great. And if those construction dollars, school construction dollars are going to start up again, that'd be exciting. That'd be great.
If I can, yeah, it's good. Thank you. So it sounds like, though, your comment is more directed towards if you're going to make a particular facility the focal point for construction, future construction, regional high school, whatever the concept may be. What about the other 2 or 3 high schools in the region, knowing which one to kind of put your eggs into, as opposed to just picking the newest or the biggest or the fanciest, knowing the landscape of the other potential buildings, which could be candidates, could be rejected because the PCBs are so high. You know what I mean? Like, say you have 3 high schools, one of which is your target school for a continuation, but the others, they could be taken out of the running potentially if the PCB rates are found to be hazardous for our students. Does that make any sense?
So do you mean they might be taken out of the race for new construction because the PCB levels are so high?
Right, because we've continued testing and we've determined that, that's a school at risk, or the reconstruction or renovation costs are so high based on PCBs or lead or whatever other anomalies might exist. And that the proper focus should shift to a different school which doesn't have those complications. That's all. So it's not all about just continuing on for where you think you're going to go with your regional schools, but also what are you going to leave behind?
Right. So if you're a regional school, you mean in terms of like the school actually then not being taken down, sort of what could happen to it as it's empty?
Yeah, yes. So let me back up a step, make it a little simpler, hopefully. Say you have 3 high schools, knowing the PCB condition of all 3 of those high schools would be a decision factor on trying to figure out which school to continue with if you're going to focus on a single regional high school out of that group of 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I remember we had some building experts in, I think 2 years ago, that talked to us maybe a little bit about this, but I could be wrong. So the scenario that you're running by me, correct me if I'm wrong. So 2 buildings with higher PCB levels could be just sort of left there, if you will. And the building that would be safest for people to take down and then reconstruct would be the one with the fewest, PCBs or no PCBs in them. Is that correct?
At least that would be part of the equation. The other parts of the equation could be size, location, et cetera of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you would know, what you're going to renovate and what you're going to leave behind.
Yeah, so it's a great question. And I think again, if you are doing this testing and have that knowledge, it very well may be that it becomes some kind of not a Superfund site per se, but I don't know what qualifies something as a Superfund site if it's vacant and can't be taken down safely. But I think your point's a really good one. We wouldn't want to risk the people that are, and it's a bigger job, frankly, right? I mean, to take down a school that has asbestos and PCBs in it, that is going to be a much bigger and much more expensive job than the other one. And one that might be able to, again, I'm not an expert, wait to be addressed, if you will, and can possibly sit vacant and safely, and people aren't in it, and people aren't doing work in it. So I think you raise a really good point, and I would certainly go toward that school where it's going to be. Again, my gut is safer for people to be doing construction in it and less expensive, and then deal with the others, when frankly we can financially. And nobody likes an empty building, but we do periodically have those in Vermont that need to be either remediated or removed, and they can be big, expensive projects. So I think your point is a good one in that regard.
Well, while we have a passionate expert on chemicals, writ large, I know the difference between PCBs and PFAS, but I was just, talking to community members about a meeting they want me to attend related to a proposed turf field at our high school that would likely contain PFAS, right? Like, I don't think they've created an alternative yet, and things that say PFAS free are not necessarily PFAS free. Any thoughts about how well some of these regulations of forever chemicals are holding up or can hold up, especially at schools?
It's a great question. I believe I don't know if Senator Williams and Senator Weeks are still on health and welfare or if they got a ticket to go.
That's a big no.
Okay.
No.
And I know that they did do some great work, as I recall, on keeping PFAS out of certain products, including, makeup in food containers. I don't know where things went with putting a moratorium on turf, but as I recall, there are turfs out there that are being sold that don't have PFAS in them. So I thought Senator Lyons may have proposed a moratorium on turfs that have PFAS, given that not only what happens when the turf is destroyed and you've got to handle it at a collection center or at a local dump, but also that it can get in kids' cleats and then they go home, and that, it's a heavy chemical, so it sinks and gets into the water. And as you all know, PFAS, once it's in the ground, it moves fast and it can go through rock and stone, and that's how it ended up in wells here in Bennington, as it was able to make its way through concrete. So I would check with Senator Lyons, and I would also encourage them to look at turf that doesn't have PFAS in it. And, I remember Dick Sears and Senator Sears and I talked at one point. I thought that a lot of sporting teams, professional sporting teams, were getting away from turf because of injury.
Yeah, that's another thing we actually heard from AOE informally. Is like,
yeah.
it's really hard on the skin and on, it's just a hard surface.
Yeah.
Any advice for us on education reform?
On what? Education reform? Hey, I'll tell you right now, you've gathered the state rock stars on that committee, and I trust all of you immensely. So, is Senator Williams there, by the way?
That's why you can say that.
He had to go to a medical appointment.
Oh, bummer. I was hoping to say hello. I know he's done great work on cell phones, and I know he started that in committee when I was the chair, and I think something has come out of it. So I just wanted to congratulate him.
Passed last year.
Yeah, which is great. Yeah. And I always credit him with getting that started and moving that along. And when a lot of people start taking credit for it, it's good. So congratulations to Senator Williams.
Thanks for taking the time to come in.
My pleasure. Great seeing all of you.
Good to see you.
Likewise.
Good luck. Okay, stay in touch. Bye-bye.
So we have some witnesses on some relationship to the miscellaneous bill, but it's about that issue that's in front of us about the time we want the clock to start taking on the class size. So we have a few people who wanted to testify, starting with Todd. The other spot. Todd, introduce yourself for the record. You're muted still. You're muted, Todd.
Turn your mic on.
Which one? Oh, the miscellaneous.
There you go.
Check with the number.
Sorry about that. Yes, my name is Todd Wilkins. I am the Arlington School Board Chair. I've been on the school board since 2008 and been the chair off and on for the vast majority of that time during that. So Arlington School District is a what we would call probably a smaller school district comparatively. But although being a small school district, we offer a tremendous amount of programs from advanced placement to accelerated programs, things like that. And we do it very well with a relatively low cost per ADM. And we're also seeing some very good student outcomes. And that's really kind of been what we have been trying to focus on is student achievements and student outcomes. With that, we're also trying to manage, potential new legislation that's coming out, and what that means for our schools. We're also in the middle of still dealing with a transition to a new supervisory union that happened a few years ago, and identifying efficiencies and how we can do better and become more efficient within that supervisory union with shared services, things like that. So when I heard that there was an opportunity or discussion occurring for the possibility of the class size and minimums potentially being moved back, that somewhat, that was a positive thing for me. We're a school that sits right on the cusp, meaning that this year we absolutely may meet class size minimum. However, we could have a year where you have a lower grade level, participation, just the way the birth rates and things happen. So we'd have to make some tough decisions for that year, but then maybe a year or two after that, we're back into the game. So those are things that we're trying to navigate and figure out, and how that works and how the legislation will work and all that. So having some additional time to manage that would be significant. I was sitting in a board meeting the other day and we were talking about student achievement. And, one of my comments to the member of the public was, I wish that our board could solely focus on those student achievements and student outcomes right now. But we have so many other things that we're focused on with legislation, governance, things like that. I feel that it's detracting from that. So any opportunity where we can have more time to really figure out this legislation and class size minimums and things like that would be significant for school boards, in my opinion.
Thank you. Any questions? No, thank you. That was helpful. Good. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Good. You're welcome to stay on if you want to. Next up is Casey Allen.
Yep. Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Senators. Thanks for your time today, and I wish I could be there in person with you all. State House is such a great place, but thanks for the opportunity to provide testimony on class size minimums. My name is Casey Allen. I'm the chair of the Craftsbury Town School Board. And before I get into my testimony, I just want to acknowledge I did receive recommendation that you all are most interested in hearing about how implementing class size minimums will work with the rest of the public education reform that's occurring. And I will get to that, but just first wanted to provide some context about enrollment and class sizes at Craftsbury. So into the testimony. Craftsbury is located in southern Orleans County in the Northeast Kingdom, and it consists of 2 campuses, a pre-K through 2nd grade campus and a 3rd grade through 12th grade campus. And the 2 campuses are about 1 mile apart. We are in our 196th year providing education to students in Craftsbury and our surrounding towns. And the 2029-2030 school year will mark Craftsbury's 200th year. Pretty remarkable achievement for any school. Our total enrollment this year is 201, and that is approximately 10% higher than our average enrollment over the last 22 years. That's just the number of years we have data readily available for. So thinking about that with the context of statewide enrollment declining significantly over the last 20 years, that stable enrollment is a pretty notable indicator of the overall health of Craftsbury schools. When we look at grade groups, enrollment in the elementary and middle school grades is well above average, with the high school enrollment lower, but continuing to rebound from a recent low point, caused in part by fewer births in between 2007 and 2010. It's going to be great having a larger high school enrollment in the coming years at Craftsbury. Some other enrollment related indicators I wanted to share that point to the overall health of Craftsbury schools is the high interest in attending the schools from surrounding districts. So a few details on that. A neighboring elementary school tuitions their students for grades 7 and up. Those students have several middle and high schools to choose from, and Craftsbury is the 2nd most popular choice for these students, with about 20% of students from that school attending Craftsbury. Craftsbury has an agreement with another neighboring elementary school where we allow a 1 student for 1 student swap. 12 students from that neighboring elementary school district would like to attend Craftsbury, with currently 0 Craftsbury students wanting to go the other way. It is unfortunate that there isn't as much swapping happening between these 2 districts, but it's just another indicator of the health of Craftsbury schools. Craftsbury has another agreement similar with a neighboring middle high school. And we have a similar situation with 4 students wanting to attend Craftsbury and no Craftsbury students wanting to go out to that other school. So to sum it up, Craftsbury's enrollment is relatively small, and it really always has been. Craftsbury is a strong school indicated by the strong interest from students in surrounding towns to attend Craftsbury. And it's attractive because of the academic outcomes, which are higher than surrounding districts and higher than the state average in all grades but 2. And there's a link there to the Craftsbury Town report that has our proficiency results from the most recent testing available. These high academic achievements are accomplished while the number of Craftsbury students receiving free induced lunches is higher than the state average. Also a note about facilities, because our enrollment is stable and even growing a bit, we are currently officially using our square footage with very little space going unused. While our enrollment is stable relative to recent averages, it does have troughs and peaks, which will create challenges at meeting minimum class sizes in some years. There's a table here that shows Craftsbury class sizes currently, as well as our historic averages, and then what's proposed or what's included in Act 73 with regards to class size minimums. And just summarizing that as quickly as possible, you see grade 1, Act 73 has a class size minimum of 10. We currently have 15. Our historical average is 12. Grades 2 through 5, the Act 73 minimum is 12. We have a range between 14 and 21, and our historical average is 12. So you can see a relatively big bump there in elementary. Grades 6 through 8, class size minimum in Act 73 is 15. We have between 17 and 20. Historical average is 15. So hovering right around that Act 73 class size minimum. And then finally turning to the grades 9 through 12, Act 73 class size minimum is 18. Our current enrollment span is between 8 and 16, and our historical enrollment average is 16. So turning to H931, the miscellaneous changes in education law, I recommend a delay, if not a removal, of class size minimums for the following reasons. Data from AOE linked there at the bottom that represents where schools stand relative to class size minimums show that most schools are going to have some real trouble meeting these minimum class sizes. And to me, that indicates that those minimums, and I did pay attention to quite a bit of the process of developing those minimums in the House. They weren't really developed to be achievable in the near term without some very, very significant changes to where students are educated and how. This would be disruptive to Craftsbury schools and other schools across Vermont with stable enrollment and strong academic outcomes. Also, class size minimums aren't really by themselves going to result in any reduction in expenses at Craftsbury, and will definitely cause a lot of chaos and confusion among students and faculty. We operate a very efficient high school, currently employing 4 high school faculty: math, English, science, social studies. These 4 faculty offer a broad range of classes, including numerous APs and specialized electives, giving our students a broad foundation to learn and excel in. Because of this, we're able to provide strong opportunities with a very efficient staff body. And I just wanted to pivot briefly from my testimony just to provide a little more detail around class size minimums and what those may cause to our school. Act 73 and the talk of class size minimums has slowed down the Craftsbury School Board's efforts to collaborate with neighboring districts around sharing services and expanding opportunities for Craftsbury students and students in other districts. We have for the last several years, well, prior to last year, have an annual meeting with a neighboring school district to explore how to collaborate. We canceled last year's meeting. We're probably going to cancel this year's meeting just due to all the uncertainty that this is bringing. So basically, there's just hesitancy from both boards to, spend energy and time talking about how to share resources and opportunities just with the current environment. And I can go into more detail later about what those specific areas of collaboration are, but I'll move on. So to sum it up, I recommend schools like Craftsbury instead focus on efforts that are more likely to result in cost savings, specifically shared services as are possible in regional cooperative educational service areas, CESAs. I'd like to also point out that I think the most, if not one of the most significant cost increases at Craftsbury over the last few years is special education. And this is due to declining enrollment in towns surrounding Craftsbury that we share special education services with, and that declining enrollment is placing a greater financial burden on Craftsbury. And so focusing on a CESA model we've identified as a really important next step toward addressing this critical concern. Finally, as we approach our 200th year in a couple of years, Craftsbury is doing very well, both in enrollment and academic outcomes. So I ask why disrupt that with minimum class size requirements that really won't provide guaranteed expense reductions. Thank you.
Yes.
So I don't mean to pick on you.
Please do.
You're a political leader in Craftsbury. I sit on economic development in the morning, and I'm sure you're a victim of these same forces, but it's hard when communities vote down multifamily housing that would potentially grow their student base and would grow their grant list. And then, want to keep a relatively small school. My hope for all of our rural communities is that they are fighting hard to get more multifamily workforce housing into their vacant buildings, into their communities, that would allow them to have teachers and students, be able to sustainably attend their school. So my hope is just that the political leadership of the school district is out there using political capital to support housing projects and affordable housing.
Yeah, great point. And I agree. In Craftsbury, there is a community trust, Headwaters Community Trust, that is advancing those exact types of efforts. And I'm not aware of any squashing of any multi-family housing units. That may be Greensboro. That is definitely, an adjacent town to Craftsbury.
Fair. I thought they were part of your school district.
No, great town. But just, that has played out in Greensboro, and it's, your just, your summary of that is accurate and presents a lot of challenges to that school district. It is a separate school district. We do
Okay.
have students that do attend Craftsbury schools through tuition or some of the swapping agreements I mentioned earlier.
Okay. Okay. They're a separate school district. Are
Greensboro is we're the same supervisory unit.
Okay.
Greensboro is part of the Mountain View Union District.
Mm.
Elementary district was Standard, Greensboro, Hardwick, and Woodbury.
Okay.
And I used to be the principal there, and I would agree with you, everything you said about the housing situation there.
Okay.
Craftsbury
We're
is,
with you.
yeah.
But they voted it down, you said.
They voted down as I understand it, a 20-unit project in an old vacant town building.
No, that's democracy.
Okay.
Much as it ain't right.
We need to keep moving. Thank you. That was helpful.
Still makes a
We
lot
have
of
Lisa McCarthy. So just to reiterate for the last couple of witnesses here, the real issue before us is the start date for the moving class sizes, because we're one of the kind of.
In case you
We're not-
were push it out or get rid of it, is that your opinion on the class sizes?
Correct. Yeah, it's not going to result in any meaningful reduction in expenses or increased opportunities for Craftsbury students. And
Todd, did you feel the same way?
Yes,
right.
absolutely.
Okay, so for the record, you are.
Hi, I'm Lisa McCarthy, I'm principal of Craftsbury Schools. So I first want to thank the committee. I think that you've been incredibly supportive of rural schools in general. And specifically, I just want to thank you for providing a path forward for voluntary merger committee or study committees, and not for study committees that have neighbors chosen for us. I think Casey and I are pretty aligned in our thinking. That, I think I appreciate that you continue to provide a path forward for us for local democracy via the supervisory union structure. And I am going to speak about the complications of implementing minimum class sizes basically this next school year. But I do want to give a little bit of context first. I know I've spoken about Craftsbury before, but I think that it's important that you understand kind of the community. I was thinking this week, I was leaving our faculty meeting outside in the sun, which was of course welcome before our board meeting, and really thinking about how to convey to you what it means to be part of a small rural school in a rural community. And so what came up for me is that in front of me on the common, there were 30 middle and high school students participating in track practice. There were a group of younger students and families streaming out of the gym, leaving indoor soccer practice, hosted by our regional indoor soccer club. High school students were getting ready to start softball practice in the gym as they were leaving. Our Wonder Kids after school enrichment program was in attendance in the common room working on an art project. Dungeons and Dragons Club, hosted by 2 high school seniors and a high school freshman for students in grades 5 through 8, was happening in the art room. And our drama club with 28 students, grades 3 through 12, were finishing up rehearsal for our spring production, Peter Pan. And as I looked around, I realized that the image I saw before me was really what I wish you could see. Because it is like the image of community and what it means to be part of a community. It was 4:15 in the afternoon, and when I sat down and totaled those numbers, about 65% of our students, K through 12, were still on campus, engaged in meaningful activities after school. And I think the important part of this for me is that it's not only the students who are there, but it is all the adults who are volunteering and also hired to make this happen in our community. All right, just lost my place here. So I think that and thinking about like, what do we want for rural towns in the future moving forward in Vermont, that to me was just really kind of a vision that really portrayed, what I think rural Vermont's all about. So while we can capture data points to show the number of students participating in athletics and after school programs, at the state level, we're not looking at the data that captures what it truly feels like to be part of a community. In Craftsbury, students and community members have a sense of belonging. and to have students of all ages interacting not just with each other, but with healthy adult role models who are working and volunteering to make activities happenings the image of a thriving school community and also a thriving town. The strong relational health we have intentionally built and nurtured is a sign of a strong community, but it's also a resiliency factor for both students and adults in rural Vermont. And it is the core of what makes rural Vermont so special. So we are a town in Craftsbury, and I'm a Calais resident. I'm not a Craftsbury resident, but we are a town that historically has really valued education. Sterling College is currently there, although it's closing. So it's a town that values education in general. And we, as Casey mentioned, we have a very stable and even increasing school population. And there are, there's been kind of like ebbs and flows at various grade level. And we're currently in a dip in our high school level, which was projected. We saw this coming, and we have our class size averages in grades 5 through 8 for next year are projected at 22, which is 15 is the average class size or the class size minimum there. So we're looking to kind of like boost significantly in the future. And in regards to the minimum class size requirements, I ask that you slow the process or eliminate the process, honestly, towards implementation of the requirement. This will allow school administrators the time needed to be thoughtful about implementation and how to meet these requirements without impacting student achievement and learning. A knee-jerk reaction with implementation beginning in September of this year will require us to make significant changes to our master schedule and courses, and I believe will lead to a situation where administrators are feeling pressure to comply with the law and are in a position where doing what is best for students is put to the side. I'd also like the committee to consider that there are currently other changes at the state level being asked of schools and administrators that are also coming down the pipeline. One in particular that is on the horizon is a change in statewide graduation requirements. The changes required for many schools in this area are significant and will require thought and intention around planning, staffing, and budgeting. Adding more to our plates in terms of change that will be overwhelming when it's kind of all at the same time. And I'll add to this, I was thinking about this on my way here. I think part of the challenge with this is that when we open up these conversations with our staff and our families, it impacts climate pretty quickly. They're hard conversations because there's kind of been this chronic uncertainty, and so the not knowing is what's really hard for people working in education right now. And the being asked to move forward with this plan and potentially teaching courses in different areas when we don't even know the outcome of the legislation. And, we're hearing at the state level that, a bill will be vetoed if there's not consolidation. That leaves us thinking, are we making this like big change for 2 years for something that, is going to impact student learning significantly? And we might lose control anyways. We just don't know. So that's one of the challenges. Sorry, you may think the situation I'm describing above is only relevant to the smallest schools in the state. However, AOE data on current class sizes demonstrate that only 6 high schools in the state are currently meeting the minimum class size requirement of 18, and they're all in Chittenden County. So I'm talking about how this will impact the vast majority of schools in Vermont, not just the exceptions. And then I just want to be clear that I'm not opposed to change at the state level in regards to education. I just think we need to be a little bit more thoughtful and a little bit more slow in the process of how we roll it out. I think that Act 73 was originally presented really impacts rural schools disproportionately. And specifically, I have concern about the quick turnaround and implementation of the class sizes, as well as the continued conversation around forced consolidation. I have significant concerns that change in our school district governance structure will not only significantly impact Craftsbury, but would have far-reaching impacts in our ability to maintain viable rural towns across the state of Vermont. And then in closing, I want to remind the committee of, Casey's testimony on the historical class size averages in Craftsbury. We're a small school, always have been, always will be. But we are kind of meeting a lot. I mean, we're achieving at pretty high levels academically, and we are in most cases at the class size minimum or willing, in the long run to kind of reallocate resources as needed to meet those. We've always, I know the board's been really dedicated to complying, with all state requirements. So it's something that, we're looking to do. And what we're really looking to do is to provide, the best possible education and learning outcome while also being able to be fiscally minded. And it just feels like it's all coming together really fast for us to be able to do that well.
Questions? Well, you look.
I did. Thank you. You are echoing what we hear almost yesterday and from everybody. And my question is, what per student? How much is cost per student?
Basic.
What's the question?
I mean, how
How
much?
much? So which
Mhm.
cost per student?
Per pupil spending?
Yes.
Yeah, Craftsbury's at 15,923.
Shouldn't even be looked at, but okay. I think.
And just, just a comment on that, that is below the minimum, or the threshold, which as a board member is a very important number that we look to. So we are always below that, and I just want to just make it clear that that's a really helpful guide as a member of our board who helps to develop our budget annually. So, and just another note on that, there are district schools and districts in RSU that are higher and lower than that. But yeah, we're at 15,900.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have, Chris Holston.
Hi,
So-
my turn.
Yes. For the
Can you
record.
all hear me well?
Yes.
First of all, I want to thank you for providing me this
First,
opportunity.
introduce yourself, Chris.
Yeah, so I am here in my capacity as the chair of the Bellows Falls Union High School Board. And the executive summary of this is I agree with what everyone else has said, which is I think that with everything else that is happening in terms of changes in education coming from Montpelier, I think that there really is room and time for us to see what some other changes, some of the impact of some of the other changes that are being considered, which may make a mandatory class size requirement less necessary. I do want to provide a little bit of context here. While I am here as the chair of the board for the Bellows Falls Union High School, this is my second year of doing this. I've got a wealth of experience in education in Vermont, beginning with the fact that I graduated from the Bellows Falls Union High School way back when. I've only lived out of Vermont for the 12 years that I went to college and was in the Navy. I got a master's degree in teaching math, came back and taught math at the Bellows Falls Union High School, was assistant principal there for 6 years, was principal there for 16 years. I currently teach at the Career Center in Brattleboro. And so I'm coming at this less from the data perspective that particularly Casey and Lisa brought to it, and more in an anecdotal sort of way, and the impact of class size mandates at the building level, at the district level. So if you want to bear with me, I'll try not to take up too much more of your time trying to make the same point that other folks have been making. But there's really 4 points that I wanted to make relative to the impact of those class size mandates. Because of the rural nature of our state, if we imposed and faithfully committed to class size mandates, smaller schools would certainly feel the impact because they would, in order to meet that mandate, may need to consolidate, join with other schools, which again, I know there are other initiatives out there moving in that direction as it is, but in our district, we already have students driving a half an hour or more one way just to get to classes. So I think that there's going to be an impact there that needs to be considered as this class size mandate is under consideration. if those consolidations don't happen and we go with class size increases, that may limit the offerings that students have. And again, others here that have testified have brought sort of an elementary school perspective. I'm coming from that more of a secondary school perspective. So it would limit opportunities for students. I think most of us are aware that a way around that might be some online learning opportunities, some virtual learning opportunities. Folks are probably aware of the existence and the high quality work that's done by VTVLC, the Vermont Virtual Learning Collaborative, providing lots of additional opportunities for students when class offerings, course offerings get limited for any number of reasons at their school. But I would also acknowledge that virtual learning is not for everyone. And in-person learning certainly accommodates more and different and varied learning styles. And so I don't really see that as a solution as much as it is an opportunity for a different approach. But I think we'd be looking at more of a need there as class size mandates impact the course offerings at individual schools. But the last thing that I want to say on this is, as someone who spent 16 years building master schedules at the high school and caring about the number of students in a class, to faithfully commit to those class sizes is really going to sort of throw a monkey wrench into that process in a variety of ways. I have experienced having to build master schedules, trying to keep class sizes, for local policy reasons at certain levels, and then having the school year begin with folks moving out of schools or students making decisions that I'd rather not take that class, but I'd rather take this class. And now this master schedule that was maybe attending to class size minimums has gotten blown up a little bit. And do I accept whatever consequences might go along with that? Or do I cancel the course because I don't have enough students to run it? And so those are some of the concerns that I think hit schools where the rubber meets the road, you might say. And so again, I'm encouraging the committee to sort of sit on your hands on this topic while we wait and see how some of these other legislative initiatives play out in school buildings. So I appreciate you giving me the time to talk to this.
Thank you. Yes, Senator Hershey.
Chris, it's good to see you again. Very quick question. Are you still teaching the aviation classes in Brattleboro?
I am. So this is my 5th year teaching in Brattleboro. I started out as the math teacher here, but had the opportunity to open up an aviation careers program. And the focus is helping students get started on that career path, either as drone operators or as pilots, but also exposing students to a wide range of aviation careers.
If you looked above his head, you would have saw.
Yeah, I thought I saw it. I was like,
Those are helicopter blades in the back there. So we're talking about flight stability for helicopters, which is not my forte, by the way, but I can fake my way through it.
helicopters.
For what?
Yeah.
Only once, huh? It tells us
Yeah, I
better.
decided that wasn't
Senator Rosenthal.
So it's Friday afternoon, and I just want to see if there's some agreement on this statement from a lot of the thinkers in this room and what you've shared and the committee. The foundation formula is one of the only tools we have to provide some level of certainty to districts and taxpayers. It is a political challenge, but probably the right thing to do for kids. everything else is kind of trying to avoid the difficult politics of that, or meddling in the districts further about, well, we want you to do the foundation formula, but we also want you to do this to find some more magical savings. We can have a separate conversation about how facilities, dollars, bonding, and school construction also create an incentive for consolidation. But in the current conversation about the foundation formula, everything else we're doing is kind of window dressing for ourselves or the governor. What money does it save to ask districts to do more than accept the foundation formula?
What money does it save?
Mm-hmm.
Say, your question again.
What money does it save to do anything more than implement the foundation formula?
Well,
And I was gonna. Can I reframe the question? Is it
Absolutely.
why implement class size minimums above and beyond?
I'm ready to let go of the class size thing altogether.
What you're saying is you gotta work with the foundation formula. Don't worry about anything else. Is that what I'm
All of
thinking?
this, it's like all of the uncertainty we're creating otherwise. You have to live with the foundation formula, but you also have to be in a new district or a new seesaw or a new school or a new class size. Is it going to make anyone feel better? Is it going to save us money?
Why don't we have Jeff run that?
Well, we know it won't say, we know the foundation formula is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's the starting point times it. So that's the expense.
Right.
So that's, in some ways, that's the answer to your question.
And almost all of the districts we've talked to are under the foundation formula level as it stands with the NIPA increases that you've proposed. And I can't wait to see those schools get a little bit more money to serve their kids, if that's correct. If the ones that are spending below average will get a little bit more money. The rest is politically challenging.
So just to put this in a little context, I think the question before us, just in this regard with this issue with the class sizes, is do we start when the House says, the House version, or do we go a few years out until perhaps the foundation formula is in place and then start the clock making?
I'm ready to let go of class size
So
minimum.
can you be at the led in any event of those two?
I mean, I was going to say I would also support getting rid of class size minimums. If we're going to instead delay it, I do think there needs to be a lot more clarity in class is, and you know, I think a number of points have been brought up the whole session regarding, you know, are we talking about students per teacher or students in a grade, or a student, you know, does a parent educator in the classroom also count against the number of kids? You know what I'm saying? So I think there's a lot of questions that are left unanswered. And what I've seen, especially in Act 73, but also other bills, is when you have something as expansive as this, and there are lingering questions, like what's included in Tier 3, for example, it creates a lot of doubt and uncertainty. I'm going to throw that in there. It's just that.
Let's reduce the uncertainty.
So I see hand here.
well, yeah, I too.
Okay.
I once, Senator, want to jump in. Okay, so, pretty big question. It's kind of like the overarching question of the whole conversation about Act 73, I believe. It's a big question. But I'll address your comment about class size and minimums. I think it's germane to analyzing schools. I don't think it's a primary driver necessarily. I do think part of the conversation is the definition of small by necessity and how you react to small by necessity, which by design, Act 73 hasn't provided the answer. It required State Board of Education to work on that answer.
The small by necessity.
Yeah,
Sure.
okay, so that's all part, that's
Yeah.
class size minimum.
I think that's for the weighting.
Oh, yeah.
But you,
That's different.
okay. But you asked a bigger question about well, what other aspects of Act 73 are important, germane, relevant, et cetera. And I come back to the same perspective I've had since the very beginning is what I want, what I desire is a superintendent who's got a view on a larger geographic footprint. So we can start making decisions about which schools we should be fortifying for academic programs and facilities. And that's very, very important. I don't want to continue this, looking through a straw at a very small community or community or group of communities. Really want a professional superintendent to start moving down the path of what's right for the larger community, for the region, whether it's the size of a county or what have you. I'm not sure what the right sizes are, but that's the outcome that I'm looking for in addition to foundation. That's it all.
Yeah. To that point, I think, when we're looking at that, greatly expanding the size of SUs, and it's not in terms of administration costs, superintendents are still going to need a lot of help in making sure they're doing their job as a superintendent for a much larger union. They're having deputy superintendents. So that's just one thought I had based on a conversation I had very recently with the superintendent.
If your point though is
My point's a little different. I'm not talking about the staffs, although I do think that it would be appropriate to have fewer superintendents with fewer staffs. Will every SU or superintendent that maybe not included in the future picture, will all their staffs going? No, not at all. And that's not really what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is a professional who's looking at all the schools in that region and then beginning to socialize with the community. Which ones get enhanced? Where do we put the money? Where should we be working on academic programs, whether it's aviation or otherwise, where they belong? Right now, we got 7 high schools and they're all bumping into each other. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I get you.
Thanks.
thanks everybody for coming in. You all had a similar vision. It was really helpful for us to hear it.
What I hope we really absorb is not just the ask of push things out or et cetera, but the uncertainty that we're creating. Is it worth it? Like, I'm going to propose that we stick with superintendents told us a district of 2,000 to 4,000 means high quality instructional leadership or units, whatever. A unit of 2,000 to 4,000 allows for instructional leadership and economies of scale without getting to diseconomies of scale. That is bigger than the mean district in the country. Most districts are about 1,500. It is just under the average district size in the country of 5,000. There's that. We're a rural state. We have the foundation formula. Is everything else just someone's desire for a political win because they don't like one of those two things?
Let's
Happy
come
Friday.
back to this. By the way, we're going to start to be able to have access to budget council next week when that bill goes out of the house. So we'll really pick ours back up. Go ahead.
Can I make just one comment? Because I think I'm really trying to get a sense of community, committee
Vision.
I don't think it has anything to do about number of students. I think it has everything to do with the number of facilities, leads directly to the number of principals, which is what superintendents are charged to lead. They don't lead students, they lead principals, and they lead facilities. So this whole conversation about gluing anything against the number of students,
Sure.
I think is we better serve to dedicate
Okay.
superintendents to the number of facilities.
But those numbers exist as well, right? And if we're talking about facilities next year, it's still a conversation about what we invest.
Have that data. We
Right.
put together the-
But the average school district has 5 school facilities. So let's just figure out what metrics are we really trying to get at?
So I think actually they're both relevant
That doesn't help.
It does. That's exactly what you were saying.
because
Talking about
having,
one district.
The one district.
Yeah, the ones, and
having, so
every,
what we're looking at in this committee right now is having SUs and SVs that are all over 2,500 kids.
Right.
So it has that scale, and that, at least, that there is a rationale for that, I think.
There's a quality rationale.
And also just the ability to move things around and decide which ones. So.
Yes.
But I also get, so I'm not arguing, center explaining the both relevant. And
I
we have
think the
all-
chicken
we have
egg
all that
is
data.
well,
So
where we're
let's
going.
move on, because this is a discussion we're going to have in the next couple of weeks. Let's try to finish our budget letter before we have at 3:30. One more with this at 3:30. For the stakeholders.
Chris, do you have any advice on trying to build a plane as you fly it? Because that's what we do a lot of here in building.
But I think.
I try to not do that. I try to make sure that the plane that I get into is already not only well-built, but tested by other people.
Here, you go. Thank you.
Okay,
Take your.
so let's go back to the budget letter. Do people need a break?
Thank you for hearing me out, folks. I'm going to head out.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, Chris.
Let's make it quick. So we want to
Thank you.
start.
free to buy it.
Okay, till 10.